Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. My name is Asma Kasuba. It's my honor to welcome you all to our second annual Muslim Heritage Month Festival. And it's also my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker. Our keynote is a comedian, writer, and disability advocate. She's a Princeton Fellow and co-founder and co-executive producer of the New York Arab American Comedy Festival. Her TED Talk, I Got 99 Problems, Palsy is Just One, was one of the most popular talks of 2014 and has been viewed almost 1 billion times. She's sold out top New York City venues and has toured extensively at home and abroad, performing comedy in an effort to counter Islamophobia. She's the author of the best-selling memoir, Find Another Dream, and Scholastic's Shiny Misfits graphic novel. Shiny Misfits was just selected for a Read Across America selection, which is a really big deal. Her journey teaches us resilience, empathy, and the power of humor to overcome barriers. She just returned from a trip from Palestine, which she will tell us all about. Please join me in welcoming the Queen of Comedy and our own New Jersey native, Maysoon Zayd.
Assalamu alaikum, South Jersey. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I was dreading coming back home. I just flew home from Palestine, and I was actually dreading it. But I'm very thankful to my cousin Anam, who invited me to be part of this. And so now, let's get started. My name is Maysoon Zayd, and for those of you who don't know me, I am not drunk, but the doctor who delivered me was. So as a result, I have something called cerebral palsy. Now, cerebral palsy is different in everyone. Some of us are nonverbal, some of us are wheelchair users. In my case, I shake all the time. So I shake it. I shake it like Taylor Swift. But she just wants to shake, and mine is totally involuntary. But I don't want anyone in this room to ever feel bad for me. Because in the Oppression Olympics, I would win a gold medal. I am Palestinian. I am Muslim. I'm a woman of color. I am divorced. I am disabled. And I live in Donald Trump's America. If you don't feel better about yourself, maybe you should. But I want to tell you a little bit about my origin story, because I think of myself as a superhero, and every superhero has an origin story. So my story begins with 4 people in Palestine: Shahima, Zayd, Misada, and Dahoud, my grandparents. And I love to tell the story of how my grandparents, Dahoud and Misada, my mom's parents, met. How they found their nasib. How my grandfather found the other half of his deen. My grandfather was walking home from the city called Ramallah to the village that we live in called Dedwan. And as he was walking, he saw the most beautiful woman ever in the world hanging laundry. She was hanging up laundry. And he looked up and he saw her and he said, "That's the other half of my deen. That's my nasib." And he went home and he told his father, "This is the girl I want. She was hanging laundry. I know exactly what house it is. We're going tomorrow. We have to ask for her hand. This is it." So my grandfather went the next day, but there was a problem. Siti Misada had a sister. Her sister's name was Sakina, and Sakina was older than Siti Misada. So when my grandfather's family went to ask for her hand, they brought Sakina, the older sister, instead. They weren't going to skip over her. That would be a problem. And my grandfather said, "No, no, 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 no. That is not my nasib. That is not who is hanging that dirty dish dasher. Bring me my angel. And they brought him Sitti Misada. And I often think, if not for that one dirty dish dasher, I would not be here. Now, I'm going to talk about something very controversial. I'm going to talk about Hesed. Some people believe that Hesed exists. Other people don't. My Sitti Shahima believed in Hesed. And that is how my father got his name. So, my father, when he was born, was named Abdul Aziz. But when my father went back to heaven, his name was Musa. And this is the story of how Abdul Aziz became Musa. So my dad was 4 years old, and he was living in the village, and there was a nomad, a Bedouin woman, who was walking from village to village. And she wanted water, and so she stopped at my Sitti Shahima's house, and she asked her for water. Now, Sitti Shahima was a legendary example for Muslim women everywhere. They say that if she saw someone laughing, she would sit and laugh with them. And if she saw someone crying, she would sit and cry with them. She was the picture of empathy, and she believed in karama and zakat. And so when this woman came and asked her for water, she gave her the water, and she was really happy. And the woman saw my dad, and she looked at him and she said, "That is the cutest baby I've ever seen. I've never seen such a cute baby. That baby is so cute. He's so beautiful. Wow, so cute." And what she didn't say was mashallah. And the next thing you know, my dad got really sick, and he had a fever of like 103, and he was basically dying. And all my aunts came and they read Quran, and they lit some sage, ubakharula, and they finally got him back on his feet. So 3 months later, the woman was passing by yet again. And she asked my grandmother for water, and my grandmother gave her water, even though she was clearly an evil witch. And so she gave her the water, and then the lady said, "Where is that cute baby? Where is that cute baby Abdulaziz? I loved him so much last time. I want to see him again." And my Sitti Shahima looked her dead in the eye, and she said, "He's dead." And then the woman saw my dad, and she goes, "That's him. That's Abdulaziz. That's the cute baby." And my grandmother looked at him and she said, "That kid's name is Musa." And from then on, that was my father's name. Now, my father swears, he swears that when he saw my mom, it was love at first sight. That he knew the second that he saw her, that she was the one. And when I asked him, "Daddy, how did you know Mom was the one?" He said, "Your grandfather, he told me." It's true. My parents are first cousins. Now, it was okay to marry your first cousin when you had to ride a llama for 5 days to find someone you were not related to. We now have Love is Blind, Habibi, and you should not do that anymore, because with all of the violence worldwide, the #1 cause of disability in the Muslim world remains cousins getting married. Now, I am not here to tell you to divorce your cousin if you're married. Please stay married. Don't say Maysoon ruined your lives. However, I do highly recommend genetic testing as an option going forward. So my mom and dad got married, and when they got married, they went on their honeymoon to Beirut. And after they came back from their honeymoon, it was Laylat al-Qadr. It was Ramadan, and it was Laylat al-Qadr. Laylat al-Qadr, for those of you who don't know, and alhamdulillah, I think most of this room does know, is when we get to pray our hardest, and we hope that God answers our prayers. So my dad gathered all the children of the family, and he said, on Laylatul Qadr, you will pray the following, in Arabic first, and then I'll translate it. He said, everyone pray, الله يهدي عمو موسى أولاد ويتشفي شر البنات. God, please gift Uncle Musa only boys and give him no girls to give him a headache. Just give him boys and get away, no girls. And this is what he told everybody to pray. And he had these kids praying and praying and praying and praying. All night they prayed. And then at one moment, they claimed that they saw the sky open. And my cousin Tariq was so excited. He said, with all of his might, he prayed, Ya Rab, تهدي عمو موسى بنات ويتشفي شر الأولاد. God, please only give Uncle Musa daughters and don't give him any sons. And apparently God only listened to my cousin Tariq because my father got 4 girls and no sons. Now, when I was born, my parents didn't think that God would be so generous as to gift them with another girl. So they had only picked a name for a boy. It's a very original name. If you're pregnant and you're looking for a good name, you've probably never heard it before. It's very unique. Please feel free to steal it. They were going to name me Muhammad. So when they saw I was a girl, they decided to name me Muhammadiyah, the female version of the name Muhammad. Now, Muhammad is a great name, is the name of a prophet, is the name of the greatest boxer who ever lived. But being named Muhammadiyah was like being named Smurfette. Luckily, the doctors told my parents I was going to die, and they didn't want to waste such a good name on a dead baby. So instead, they named me Maysoon. Now, fun fact. All Arabic names have a meaning. And when your parents don't know the meaning of your name, they lie to you. If you are a girl and they don't know the meaning of your name, they say, it means beautiful flower. And when you say, can I see that beautiful flower? Could we buy one of those? Maybe plant that beautiful flower? Is it an annual or a perennial? Can you tell me about this flower? My mom would always say, it's only in the heaven. That's why you've never seen it. Now, if you're a boy, they tell you that your name means lion, and they are lying to you. So I grew up thinking Maysoon meant beautiful, heavenly flower. And when I was 27, I met an Iraqi linguist who informed me that Maysoon does not mean beautiful, heavenly flower. Maysoon means lemur. Small monkey, giant eyes. Maysoon means zaboomafoo. I grew up thinking I was a flower, and instead my parents named their shaking, fuzzy, brown baby monkey, and I survived, alhamdulillah. Now, thank you. Now, another thing that the doctors told my parents was that I would never walk. Now, let me be clear. There is absolutely no shame in not walking or using any mobility device you feel frees you, whether it's a wheelchair, a cane, a walker. Anything that increases your independence is something that you should lean on. But my father was raising me between 2 very, very inaccessible worlds. I lived between Jersey and Jerusalem because apparently I like the letters J-E-R. And so my dad was determined to teach me how to walk. And he had a mantra. And his mantra was, you can do it. Yes, you can. And he had 2 different ways of teaching me. The first was to place my feet on his feet and just walk. I walked miles on that man's shoes. His second technique was to dangle a dollar bill in front of me and have me chase it. My inner capitalist was so strong, I was running in stilettos by kindergarten. I often tell the story of my father and his belief in me and his cheerleading of me that yes, I can. But the reality is this. No matter how hard my father prayed, no matter how much he cheered me on, no matter what cutting edge techniques were developed, if I did not have the ability to walk, I never ever would. So Can is not about achieving miracles. Can is about achieving the best that you can achieve. It's about not saying I can't without at least trying. I'm telling you right now, I can't do cardiac surgery. No matter how much I say can, you do not want me and a scalpel by your heart. So it's very important to remember that while my father's faith in me and his cheerleading of me brought me to the space I am now, none of this could have been done if it wasn't for my natural ability given to me by God to do so. So please make sure to never judge the people who are across from you based on me, because I am the disco queen and not everyone can do this. No, I'm kidding. But then we come to my mom, right? I say my dad was a teddy bear and my mom was a tyrant. And I am so grateful to have both of them, because I think the most important thing that my mom did for me was she treated me exactly like my sisters, no matter how hard I tried to get away with murder. I will never forget the very first time I played the disability card. For those of you who don't know what the disability card is, the disability card is when a disabled person pretends that they can't do something they don't want to, and they blame their disability. So I was 5 years old, and my mom had me and my sisters cleaning the house. Everybody had a set of chores. She had 4 daughters. There was no reason she should ever do a dish again. That's why God gave her us. And so she came up to us, and she had a list of things that everyone was supposed to do. And it was my first time playing the disability card, and I was ready. I went up to her, and I said, "Mother, I cannot clean. I am disabled. There's no way I can do this. I'm so sorry. God is great. I'm going to go watch TV." And my mother covered the kitchen floor, which was marble, because even though we lived in Jersey and it should have been linoleum, we were Palestinian, and that stuff was marble. I think it came from Sicily. I'm not sure. It definitely fell off a truck. So we had a marble floor, and she covered the marble floor with soap, and then she covered it with water, and then she threw down a towel, and she sat me on the towel, and she had me scooch back and forth on that kitchen floor until I mopped and glowed the entire thing. And when I was done, she looked at me and she said, "Yes, you can." Now, a lot of people who grew up in Jersey spent their summers where? At the Jersey Shore. I didn't get to go to the Jersey Shore. My best friends growing up never bullied me, never made fun of me, even though I was the only kid that Santa Claus skipped every single year. That's right. I grew up in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. I grew up with 33,000 Italian Catholics and 6 Muslims who were all my family. And let me tell you, Christian children really owe Jews and Muslims a debt of gratitude, because we kept up the Santa secret for decades. Do you know what kind of pressure that is for a 5-year-old? Your parents take you aside. They're like, "Don't tell Tina Santa Claus isn't real." And I'm like, "Why? What happens to Tina?" They're like, "You don't want to know." And then I would come back from Christmas vacation, and what was the first question always? "What did Santa get you?" And I would be like, "Nothing. I'm bad. That's why I shake all the time. It's the demons." It was difficult. It was very hard growing up, but I did like Christmas Eve. My friends used to take me to midnight mass, and they would show me off, and they'd be like, she is from where Jesus is from. And I'd be like, John Bon Jovi rules. So instead of going to the Jersey Shore every summer, my parents sent me to live in a war, because they were convinced that if I didn't go to Palestine every summer, I would forget my roots and grow up to be Britney Spears. A multi-millionaire. Thanks, Dad. And I used to love Palestine as a kid. It was really fun. We would go back to our village, and it was wedding season. And they'd take all the kids, who were marrying age. So the women would be like 17, 18, 19. The men would be 27, 28, 29. And they'd make two big circles, and they'd have them dance around each other to a song called Wen Aramallah. And wherever the circle stopped, that was your destiny. I just remember my cousin Khalid seeing who was across from him, and him being like, oh, hell no. And his dad was like, what do you mean no? This is your destiny. You can't say no. And he was like, Dad, that's my sister. So they had to redo the circle, and everyone was really bummed out when they saw who ended up with them. But I used to love wedding season, because when I was 5 years old, I would go and they would give me candy, and I would dance on a donkey, and it was really fun. But when I turned 18, it went bad. It went bad because of my aunt, Amti Thamina. She met me at the door of the wedding when I was 18, and she said, you're next. Aqbalach, Habibti, you're next. When I turned 25, my aunt looked at me and she went, it's okay. Your sister's children, they're gonna take care of you. When I turned 27, she took me aside and she said, listen, just marry an American, but make sure he becomes a Muslim who does not eat the ham sandwich. And then when I was 30, she looked at me lovingly and she said, it's okay, tell me, are you gay? So the next summer, I was walking at a funeral with her, and I just looked at her lovingly. I said, Aqbalach ya amti, you're next, Habibti, you're next. So I turned 33, and I had to catch a husband. And I'll tell you why. Not because I was desperate, but because I had spent $28,000 on my friends' weddings, and I wanted to make my money back. And there was another problem. And the problem is this. When you go to an American wedding and you're single, the bride marches you out on the dance floor with a bunch of other hungry, desperate women. And they throw a 10-pound bowling ball of flowers at your head. I'm palsy. Catching is not my thing. I got knocked in the head with one of those bouquets, and as I was bleeding on the dance floor, I was like, forget it. I'm going to go catch me a husband. And you know where I went to catch a husband? I went to Gaza, because they had no place to run. This was 2009. And I framed my passport in a big gold frame, and I walked through the camp going, you want a visa, baby? And my ex-husband was like, yeah. So I was like, pack up your stuff, let's go. And he's like, I have no stuff. And I have to tell you, I had a great marriage because I knew how to deal with conflict. This is so important. Listen to me, single people. Marriage is a racket, and you must avoid it at all costs. Married people are just trying to drag you down to be tortured like them. So be careful, because they don't warn you. And one of the things they don't tell you about is how important it is to deal with conflict. And the way that I would deal with conflict was I would just look at him very lovingly, and I would say, do you want to go back? One phone call and it's ice, ice, baby. So we eventually got divorced after 10 years of marriage. And the reason that we got divorced was very valid. And it was that sometimes the habits that you think are stunning are just so cute when you get married, get annoying really quickly. And with Chef Eugene, I call my ex Chef Eugene because he was a chef and a refugee, ergo, a Chef Eugene. With Chef Eugene, he had this habit that I begged him to stop. I was like, if you love me, you will just stop. And he wouldn't stop, and I had to get divorced because of it. And the habit that he refused to quit was the constant breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I was like, my God, I stopped for 5 minutes when I got born. Can't you do the same thing? Look how great I turned out. Yeah, so I'm divorced. So my time is up, but I want to end you with a story about Disney. By round of applause, who's been to Disney? Okay. I need you all to stop going there. So I used to love Disney as a child. And the reason I love Disney as a child is because disabled kids don't have to stand online at Disney. And if you've never been to Disney, they have 2-hour lines for like a ride that's 30 seconds. And they have all these signs along the way cheering you on, like 2-hour wait from here, it's totally worth it. 30 minutes, hang in there, bucko. 15 minutes, if you're not dead yet, keep standing. And I used to love going on rides at Disney because I would go on my favorite ride 15 times, and I would go out to the line and I would find the child that used to be white but was now red, about to burst into marinara sauce. And I'd be like, hang in there, kid, it's totally worth it. I just went on it 15 times. And my favorite ride was called the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. You sit in a teacup and you spin around really fast. Anytime I ever rode this ride, I would walk off and I would walk straight for like 7 minutes. And I was like, Allahu Akbar, this place actually is magical. But it all went bad. A bunch of people started renting disabled people so that they could cut the lines at Disney, and they got caught. And now nobody's allowed to cut the lines, and it's not the happiest place on earth. And I just wish I could have been one of those tour guides before they got caught, because I would have made it a teachable moment. I would have taken the children away from their parents, and I would be like, hey, Timmy and Sally. I wouldn't care what their names actually were. I would just call them Timmy and Sally. And I'd say, hey, Timmy and Sally, Mommy and Daddy did a very, very bad thing. And now you're just one little accident away from being just like me. So hold on tight, kids. Allahu Akbar. Listen, disability does not discriminate. You can join us at any time, whether you want to or not. Disability does not discriminate based on race, economic class, age, gender, religion, nationality, or who you love. I think we should all be a lot more like disability, don't you? So, my time is up, but I want to leave you with the most important advice you don't want to hear. Stop asking people if they have children. If you don't know the answer to that question, you don't know the person that you're talking to well enough. You have no idea what the person in front of you has been through. Maybe they had a miscarriage that morning. Maybe they can't afford IVF another round. Or maybe, just maybe, they didn't want to have children. Maybe they wanted to have a cat with no ears named Beyonce. Did you ever think about that? No, you didn't. But here's the other fun fact. People with children will always tell you, you never have to ask them. They just volunteer the information, I promise you. But there is one question that's even worse that you should never ask another human being, and that is, are you pregnant? Never ask another human being if they are pregnant unless you see a skull coming out from between their legs. At that point, you can call 911. I have one of those bellies that always looks like I'm 5 months pregnant. And I fly 200 days a year. And whenever I go through TSA security, I am always randomly selected for extra screening. And I know what you're thinking. Maysoon, how do they know that you're a Muslim? You could easily be the lost Kardashian. I'll tell you how they know. I have the kind of facial hair that no waxing in the world can deal with. 2 weeks in, I look like the love child of Frida and Bert from Sesame Street. So I'm going through TSA, and the agent is patting me down. And she goes, "Is it a boy or a girl?" And I say, "Doritos, Cool Ranch." The world is broken, but we can fix it. We can fix it by staying true to our deen, by being a community that others can lean on in a time of need, and others can look up to in a time where supremacy is reigning supreme. It is our job to not let hate win. Lead by example. I have chosen to never, ever be ashamed of my disability. I walk with my head held high, and I thank God every single day that He gave me this gift, because we are all created in His image. There are no mistakes, and I am blessed to be disabled and sitting in front of you today. My name is Maysoon Zayd. Next year in Jerusalem, inshallah. Thank you.